Mr. Speaker, I think that we were all gravely disappointed on Thursday when the other body failed to produce a budget and thus failed to come to the table and to discuss the budget for Virginia. Budget's not a game. It's arguably the most important document that the General Assembly performs. The budget's important to firefighters, it's important to teachers, schools, professors, and colleges. It's critical to the localities planning for the coming year, men, women, and children in need, and for many of us, it's important to road projects that we need to start in the spring. But the reasoning for the Senate Democrats to thwart a budget discussion and a budget conference is worrisome. They do not say no for a specific policy reason. In fact, Democrats in the other body said it's not a bad budget. They've got a lot of amendments in it. And the final product's something they think's a pretty good deal. But no, they candidly admit that it's for purely partisan political reasons. They want control of some of the committees and they want different ratios on committees. Okay, let's look at the arguments that they make regarding the 2020 tie in the Senate and the ability of the Lieutenant Governor to break ties. Democrats in the Senate contend that the last time it was a 2020 tie in 1995, there was power sharing in the Senate. Thus, in their mind, there should be power sharing now. But as my friend from Charlottesville said, the minority leader commented on Friday, let's have the rest of the story. Truly, they did have power sharing in 1995, but not because Senate Democrats wanted power sharing. In fact, the father of the modern Virginia Constitution, UVA professor A.E. Dick Howard, said the 20 Senate Democrats and the Lieutenant Governor Byer could break the ties and control the Senate. The only reason they didn't have power sharing in 1995 is because a conservative Democratic Senator, Virgil Goode, threatened to switch his allegiance if they didn't share the committees. Senate Democrats were planning in 1995 to exercise their constitutional rights, just as our Senate Republican colleagues are doing right now. Last week, if you missed it, Democratic senator who filed the lawsuit pertaining to the matter regarding reorganization of the Senate, he's a good lawyer. He thought he had a case, but no, he withdrew it. And he withdrew the lawsuit because it was going nowhere, and he knew it was without merit. Now let's understand the situation in 2012. The Senate Democrats drew the Senate lines and lost. The Senate Democrats, with their constitutional scholar, made the rules and lost. Senate Democrats filed a lawsuit and lost. And now, having lost on all fronts, they want to take their ball and go home. Tragically, the Senate Democrats have made losers, not of the House, not of the Republican members of the other body, but those who are to lose and those who are to be penalized are the people of Virginia who need this budget to be completed. Thursday of last week, I was disheartened the Senate Democrats failed to produce a budget for purely partisan and patently political reasoning. But on Friday, I thought it's a new day. The Speaker appointed budget conferees and later said these men and women will work Friday night, Saturday, throughout the next week, throughout the next 2 weeks. Our majority leader said he spoke and said we'd work together in a bipartisan manner to produce a good budget. Yet the words that heartened me the most were the comments from the minority leader, the gentleman from Richmond, Mr. Charlottesville. He said that with producing a budget, that the other body, and I quote, has got to do the same thing. And also, I quote, said, I'm sure they will. You know, we disagree on some issues, but the gentleman from Charlottesville is a good man, a decent man. When he says something, I believe he means it. Later in his speech, he also went on to say that the Senate would produce a budget in due course. In due course. That phrase gives me concern, and we need to clarify what in due course means. With respect to a budget, is in due course for the Senate Democrats later this week? Might be inconvenient, but within the bounds of the tolerable. With respect to a budget, is in due course for Senate Democrats later next week? Next week is supposed to be the conclusion of the legislative deliberations for 2012 and the completion of that citizen legislator or citizen metamorphosis and cycle that we all go through. Or for explicitly partisan, patently transparent political reasons, do the Democrats in the Senate believe that in due course, the gentleman's words, is sometime in April, May, June, or later? Is in due course for the city of Richmond in April when they're trying to set their school budget? Is in due course in May for Virginia Beach, which is hoping to know how they might budget for firefighters who protect us? Is in due course June when the college and professors and state workers will be forced to ponder daily, will I get paid this month? Or is in due course even later, when transportation projects around the Commonwealth, including Dulles Rail Phase 2, the $400 million that's supposed to go to Southwest Virginia for paving this year, many other projects grind to a halt because the Senate Democrats need to play musical chairs on the Senate committees and hold hostage the budget of Virginia. We need, and more importantly, the people of Virginia need to know for you to tell us when is in due course. I ask every morning of my Democratic colleagues here in the House, go talk to your Senate Democrat colleagues, ask them when in due course is, and when do we get a budget. And if the only time you can speak with them is during session, we'll go to the Speaker and see if we can't recess so you can walk down the hall and have that opportunity. We need to start a countdown calendar right here today. Friday was day number 1 of Senate Democrat budget failure of 2012. Today, my friends, is day number 4 of Senate Democratic budget failure for 2012. How many more days of this budget failure are we going to have? I'd ask you, please find out for this body, but more importantly, for the good of the people of Virginia, when will the Senate Democrats stop holding the budget as a political hostage and give teachers, firefighters, state workers, college professors, the young and old, a budget they need in 2012? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.